Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Green. We're doing another Bible study, 1 Samuel chapter 13. If you'd like me to come speak at your church, or if you have any questions, you can send me an email, or you can also comment below. So the question of the day is, who do you think you are? What's your job? What's your purpose? Are you supposed to have other people do their job so you can do yours? That's the question of the day. 1 Samuel 13, verse 1. Saul reigned for 1 year, and when he had reigned for 2 years over Israel, Saul chose him 3,000 men of Israel. Wherefore 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and in Mount Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeash of Benjamin, and the rest was the people sent to every man to his tent. So you can see here, there's Michmash on the map, and over here is Gilgal. And Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard of it. And Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, Hear the Hebrews hear, let the Hebrews hear. And Israel heard that, saying, Saul had smitten the garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also was an abomination with the Philistines. And the people were called together after Saul to Gilgal. Now the question some people ask is, what is an abomination? Well, in the Bible, there's two types of abominations. One that makes God sick, and one that makes us sick. And really all an abomination means it makes you sick, or makes you want to throw up or something like that. So the first sample we have, it says in Deuteronomy, a woman should not wear that which is pertaining to a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment, so that you are abomination unto the Lord thy God. This is something that makes God sick. The next one's going to be in Leviticus 11. And it says, and all that has fins and scales of the sea, and all the rivers, and all that move in the waters, and every living thing that which should be in the waters, that should be an abomination unto you, which means that's going to make you sick. The one about the Lord makes God sick. The one about you can make you sick. If you don't cook your food right, if you eat the wrong kind of food, it can make you sick. Back to 1 Samuel 13, verse 5. And the Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which was the seashore by multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash, eastward of Baalim. And there were men of Israel saw what they were in strait, for the people were distressed. For the people did hide themselves in caves, and in thickets, and in rocks, and in high places, and in pits. And some of the Hebrews went over Jordan to the land of the Gilgad. And as for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal. And all the people followed him trembling. And he tarried 7 days according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal. The people were scattered from them. Samuel told Saul that he was going to be there in a certain amount of days, and he was going to do a sacrifice unto the Lord. And Saul said, Bring hither a burnt offering to me and a peace offering. And he offered the burnt offering. And it came to pass, as soon as he had made the end of offerings and the burnt offerings, behold, Samuel came. And Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. And Samuel said, What hast thou done? And Saul said, Because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and thou comest not within the days appointed, that the Philistines gathered themselves together in Michmash. You see, Saul wasn't a priest of the Lord. He wasn't a prophet of the Lord. He wasn't somebody that the Lord appointed in order to do the sacrifices. That was Samuel's job. There's this thing called extenuating circumstances. You know, when you want to sin, you'll find a reason. You'll convince yourself that the reasons are valid. And we simply had extenuating circumstances that the people must understand. And more times than not, however, these are no extenuating circumstances. They're just excuses to call out, to call them extenuating circumstances. See, Saul justified his disobedience by blaming it on, number one, Saul, you didn't come when you were supposed to come, and two, well, the Philistines are out here, and he didn't see any fault in himself. Saul's like, hey, you weren't here, so I had to do your job for you. And therefore said I, the Philistines will come down now upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made supplications for the Lord. I forced myself, therefore, and offered a burnt offering. He's saying, you weren't here, and they were coming, so I just had to do it. And Samuel said to Saul, Thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandments of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee. For now would the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. He's saying you shouldn't have done this. You're not a priest. You're not somebody that's supposed to do the sacrifices. and this is a bad thing to do. But now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord has commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept which the Lord commanded thee. Everybody in Israel had a job to do. Saul was a king; he was supposed to rule over the people. Samuel was a prophet, a priest. He was supposed to tell Saul what God said and do the sacrifices. Once in a while you get a student that thinks they rule in the classroom. They make the rules. They will put their feet on the desk and listen to the music. Johnny, please take your feet off the desk, take off your headphones, and put away the radio. And Johnny's going to ignore you. So you got to escalate to number 2. All right, Johnny, this is your second request. Take your feet off the desk and put the radio away. No, or ignores. This is your last chance, Johnny. Take your feet off the desk and put the radio away. Now, you've already warned him a couple times, but he's not listening. As a teacher, it would not lose control or raise your voice or yell, curse or scream at him. I would just ratchet up the punishment as needed until I got the desired results. Number 1. Johnny, you're going to have detention for the next 5 days for not listening. Number 2. Johnny, I'm going to call the principal and your dad. Number 3. Keep happening, you're expelled from school. You see, this happens in our government too. You do something small, you get a little bit of a warning, maybe you have to pay a fine, but the worse it gets, the fine is bigger, the warning's bigger, and you actually have to go to jail. Here's the speed limits. You go 1 to 10 miles an hour, it's just, a small little fine. You go over 40, it's a bigger fine, or work zone, the file doubles. Proverbs 22 says, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but a rod of correction shall drive it all from him. That means that you might be a foolish child, but if you get disciplined, it's going to correct you. Let's start with a fine to get your attention, and that might change your attitude. And if that doesn't work, maybe you have to have some prison time to get your attention and change your attitude. And for pretty serious crimes, you might have to get executed, or that might change somebody's attitude. When a policeman pulls over to you for speeding, he's not nervous or angry or yelling or swearing. He's cool, calm, and in control of the situation because he knows he has control of your money. Here's an article that says 10 signs you're raising a kid with a bad attitude. 1 Samuel 13. But now kingdom shall not continue, for the Lord has sought him a man after his own heart. The Lord commanded him to be a captain over his people because he has not kept that which the Lord commanded thee. Samuel told Saul in the beginning, as long as you follow God, it's going to be great. But as soon as you stop following God, God's going to correct you. You see, Saul had a bad attitude, and he probably couldn't see it. And he probably never agreed that God was just to reject him. A lot of times we do things and we think it's the thing we have to do. And also sometimes we get power, we kind of take advantage of it. And Samuel said, when you were little in thine own sight, was thou not made in the head of the tribes of Israel? And the Lord anointed thee king over Israel. He's saying when you were younger, the people picked you to be the king over Israel. And we had a conversation about, being a good guy and following God. A bad attitude's like a flat tire. Until you fix it, you're not going anywhere. Attitude is everything. Change your attitude. Attitude's like the spin of a curveball. It flies straight for a while, and then it curves off. And even when it was flying straight, it had a bad attitude that eventually made it fall off course. Proverbs 26 says, the sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that can't render a reason. So if you're a bad person and know you're a bad person, that's better than 7 people that don't understand they're a bad person. Back to 1 Samuel 13 and 15. And Samuel arose and got up from Gilgal to Gibeath of Benjamin, and Saul numbered the people that were present with him, about 600 men. And Saul and Jonathan his son, and the people that were present with him, abode in Gibeah and Benjamin, but the Philistines encamped in Michmash. And the spoilers came out to the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. One company turned their way that led into Oprah, the land of Sulal, and the other company turned its way to Beth-horon. Another company turned its way to the border that looked up the valley of Zebulun during the wilderness. There was no smith found throughout all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make swords or spears. But all the Israelites went to the Philistines to sharpen every man his snare, his cutler, his axe, and his mattock. The Philistines said, this is going to be easy. There's no blacksmiths in Israel, so they're not going to have any swords. So we're going to destroy them. Well, the Israelites went to all their farming tools, and they used their farming tools. They sharpened all their farming tools. Gun control in America, it's a crazy thing. All these people in favor of gun control, raise your hand. The communists had a rule for revolution. They had 8 points. The first one says corrupt the young and get them away from religion. The second one says break down the old moral values. The third one says encourage civil disorders and a soft government attitude toward crime. Number 4, divide the people into hostile groups, race, religion, gender, ethnicity, things like that. 5, get the people's minds off the government and focus their attention on athletics. The number of athletes participating in the Olympic Games back in 1896 was about 311 athletes, and by 1996 you had 13,000 athletes. Here's an advertisement for a 50-inch TV. Football is religion. Build a nice church. Number 6, get control of all the media like CNN. David Rockefeller said he voiced his praise of the controlled U.S. media for keeping their oath not to divulge the globalist plans to the public. Speaking to his fellow conspirators at a meeting of 91 in Germany of yet one more infamous World Order group, the Bilderbergers, Mr. Rockefeller said, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Times Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. And he went on to explain, it would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we have not been subjected to the lights of publicity during these years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supernatural sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers are surely preferable to the national autodetermination practice in its past centuries. We're going to impose our agenda on the coverage by dealing with the issues and subjects that we choose to deal with." This guy said, "Our job is to give people not what they want, but what we decide they ought to have." This guy says the New York Times is deliberately pitched to the liberal socialist point of view. Even Walter Cronkite, news reporters are certainly liberal and left of center. Barbara Walters, the news media in general are liberal or socialists. Number 7, destroy people's faith in their leaders. This one says from Stalin, those who cast the votes decide nothing. Those who count the votes decide everything. And number 8, to cause the registration of all firearms to eventually confiscate the firearms. Lenin said one person with a gun can control 100 people without one. Every dictator tries to enforce some type of gun control to his people. Gun control to a dictator is power control. They want to be like gods. Gun control is not about guns, but about control. I saw this button that says proudly unarmed. Would you wear this? What does this say to a criminal? I'm the one you're supposed to rob, You might be a liberal if you don't trust the honest Americans with automatic weapons, but you do trust the federal government with them. You might be a liberal if you think guns are the cause of crime, but you don't think that matches are the cause of arson. You might be a liberal if you think the death penalty is government-sanctioned killing, but you don't think a prison sentence is government-sanctioned kidnapping. There's 700,000 U.S. physicians in the world, and the accidental death caused by physicians is about 120,000 every year. That's 17% deaths per physician. U.S. gun owners are about 80 million. Accidental gun deaths per year is about 1,500, so that's 0.019%. A person is 9,000 times more likely to be killed by a doctor than a gun accident. Adolf Hitler said, "This year will go down in history. For the first time, a civilized nation has full gun registration. Our streets will be safer, our police more efficient, and the world will follow our leaders to the future." He was Time Magazine's Man of the Year in 1938. Janet Reno says gun registration is not enough. She also said waiting periods are only a step, registration is only a step, the prohibition of private firearms is the goal. This guy said, what good is it had to ban some guns? All guns should be banned. Sarah Brady says, our task of creating a socialist America could only succeed when those who resist have been totally disarmed. Bill Clinton said, and we should, every community in the country could then start a major weapons sweep and then destroying the weapons and not selling them. You know, the first 12 months after gun control in Australia, they were forced to surrender 640,000 personal firearms to be destroyed. What's the result of that? Homicides went up 33.2%, assaults went up 8.6%, armed robberies went up 44%. In the state of Victoria, homicides with firearms went up 300%. And figures over the previous 25 years show a steady decrease in armed robbery with firearms. There's also been a dramatic increase in break-ins and assaults of the elderly. In 1911, Turkey established gun control. In 1929, the Soviet Union established gun control. Jews were prohibited from carrying firearms and ammunition, according to the Nazi gun decree. Germany established gun control in 1938. And from 1939 to 1945, 13 million Jews and others who were unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. China established gun control in 1935. Guatemala established gun control in 1964. Uganda established gun control in 1970. Cambodia established gun control in 1956. And over the years, defenseless people rounded up and exterminated in the 20th century because of gun control was about 56 million. So the next time someone talks in favor of gun control, ask them, who do you want to round up and exterminate? With guns we're citizens, without them we're subjects. In 1982, the town of Kennesaw, Georgia, passed a law requiring all able adults, except convicts and COs, to have a gun. They've only had one murder from an out-of-state criminal with a gun, and have had no increase in gun or crime or gun violence in 12 years, and that was as of 1995. Their plan is simple. You create a crisis to get the people to accept your solution. Communists define of peace in the absence of resistance. Communism is based on evolution, where man can be a god. This Impact article says, at a very early age, while staying a pupil at Escalation School, Comrade Stalin developed a critical mind and revolutionary sentiment. He began to read Darwin and became an atheist. The book changed the philosophy of Joseph Stalin. He is reported to have killed over 60 to 100 million of his own people. And he was also on Time magazine's in 1942. You know, Germany and Poland and Russia, they all was fighting a lot in World War II. Joseph Stalin ordered the execution of 14,700 Polish officers during World War II. Pol Pot, communist dictator in Cambodia, executed over 1 million of his own people. In 1975 to 1979, the Khmer Rouge, under the leadership of Pol Pot, executed more than a third of the entire Cambodian population. When the communists took over China in 1949, they began executing Christians by the rate of 15,000 every month. Mao Zedong murdered about 60 million people. And Mao Zedong listed Darwin and Huxley as his two favorite authors. 1 Samuel 13. Yet they had a file for the mattocks, and for the colors, and for the forks, and for the axes to sharpen their goats. So it came to pass in the days of battle that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people that were with Saul and Jonathan. But with Saul and with Jonathan, his sons was there found, and the garrison of the Philistines went out to the passage of Mishmash. Well, guys, that's the video. I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions, you can email me or you can comment below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about it. I'm going to put a couple links on the screen. The bottom right is going to be the 1 Samuel Bible study. Top left is going to be the Genesis Bible study. And then the bottom left is going to be a video YouTube thinks you're going to like. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have yourself a great day.